Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of HeChangedIt. My name is Mike Chisholm. As always, I'm excited to be here. I am excited to have a conversation with like-minded individuals, like-minded companies, like-minded entities who want to talk a little bit about just the status of men's mental wellness in 2021 and beyond. And I'm super, super excited where this company is going. As always, if you haven't shared or subscribed to the podcast yet, please do it in that order. Share it, subscribe to it. And if you haven't downloaded HeChangedIt yet, check it out. The app is a real thing now. It's actually out there. We're building out cool new features. It's got lots of resources. The communities are starting, and it's such an exciting time in the ecosystem of this company. Jump on board, check it out. And boy, oh boy, I get the easy part. I get to just talk with interesting people about interesting things, but my wife and her team have so many features that as this thing starts to scale, that are going to be added to this thing. So check it out, download the app. We would love to have you as part of the HeChangedIt movement. As always, these podcasts are the highlight of my week. I get to talk to very cool people about very cool things, and today is no exception. The guy that we're going to have on having a conversation with me today on heCast is a guy by the name of Bryan Ward. Bryan is a guy who has started last year, very similar to heCast, actually, even during a pandemic, saw a need, felt giftings from within to contribute back to society. And he has done that with a podcast for dads. It's called Dad Up. And even through a pandemic has released, 60 something episodes, just like we have, not letting it stop, not letting the things that are going on around us stop the need for helping people. It's a podcast for dads about dads. And I am really excited today. Obviously, we talk a lot about parenting in this new age that we live in this culture, this ever-shifting culture. We talk a lot about parenting. And so I'm really excited to talk to a guy who has really zeroed in and gotten granular on being a dad in the 21st century. So Bryan Ward, thank you for taking time out of your day to be part of heCast. And thank you very much, by the way, for contributing to our society with Dad Up.
Well, thank you very much for having me. You and your wife are awesome. I love the direction you guys are going, and I'm excited to do this. I was excited when you guys reached out, and I'm excited to be here, man.
Oh man, I appreciate that. And I mean, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts already. I appreciate, here's the one thing that I'm just going to off the cuff that I'm going to throw out there. When I talk about my reaction to your podcast is that you are all heart. You really believe from a heartfelt perspective in having these conversations about being a dad that will help people. Where did that come from? Where was the genesis of Dad Up? What's your story a little bit?
It's a good question. It's interesting. When I grew up, I had my parents, they're still, married, still together and all that. And they were involved. I have a younger sister. And the thing is, my parents, they worked full-time jobs. And one of the things that was difficult for them was to be as active as parents should be in all the activities that their kids were doing. And I know I've talked about this many a times, but I can count on one hand how many sporting events that my parents came to. Right. And I just, I still remember those days. I still remember those times that they weren't there, and it affected me. And I knew that I wasn't going to be that way with my kids. And it didn't matter what kind of job I had. It didn't matter. My kids were going to come first. And so that was a huge part of my thought process when I was growing up. I just didn't want to be kind of that absent parent. Right. And listen, I'm close with my parents. We were very affectionate. They were very, they expressed how proud they were of us and all those kinds of things. Yeah. But just being actively involved in what we were doing, they weren't. And they did the best they could. I'm not trying to dish on them at all.
You're not throwing them under a bus. You're not throwing them under any buses.
They did the best they could, but I just knew that I wasn't going to be that way with my kids. And so how Dad Up got started is, I have my boys are grown now, they're 22 and 19. And at the time, my older son was in college. He's now graduated, but my older son was in college. my younger son was about to graduate high school. And because I was so involved in their lives as they grew up, I kind of saw that like my dad role was kind of ending.
Mm-hmm.
And like they were both grown men now. And I was like, wow, I kind of felt like there was something missing that was going to be missing in me. Like my dad journey had finally ended. Even though I'm still their dad, I'm still going to be involved in all that. My dad journey had kind of ended or was about to end. And so I kind of had this void. I kind of felt this void. Like, what do I do now? What's next? And I was talking to actually my brother-in-law, and he was like, you should start a podcast for dads. And I thought about it. I talked to my wife about it. She's like, that's a great idea. You should look into that. And just the podcast, I got the dad up. I went through, it's funny. I went through about 10 different names, ran them by my wife and my kids. And they're like, no, that one's the one. Dad Up is kind of like aligned with Man Up.
Yes.
That's kind of where I took it. So, let's see. I mean, I wanted to go a direction to show dads that, hey, we carry this weight of being the financial provider for the family, right? We always feel this stress, this pressure that we have to financially provide for the family. So I wanted to show dads, hey, look, you can do that and still be a successul dad.
Yes.
So I wanted to interview guys that had done that had been this all-in dad, but at the same time had devoted their dad role, I guess you could say, the dad role being all in, but also being financial provider. So so that's kind of the journey of it. And I talked to them about their experiences, their stories, tips. It's been a crazy, crazy ride. And now I'm up to, almost 80 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's just been a crazy ride. I've had a lot of fun and I have no intentions on stopping. It's just, I've enjoyed it.
Oh, this is so awesome. Many responses to the things that you just said. First, in a kinship kind of a response with those of us that HeChangedIt. And our listeners will, of course, I'm like a broken record when it comes to this. One of the goals of HeChangedIt is to recognize that phrase "man up" that you spoke about. And what we're actually going to do is, and I mean, we've got big aspirations. We're the little engine that could. We've got gigantic aspirations of turning this thing into a worldwide movement. And one of the things that we want to do in the thought changing or thought provoking arena is to actually take that phrase "man up" back. And you talk about how men have this thing inside to be the financial provider, be the rock, be all these things. Those of us who do take the responsibility of being a husband, a dad, a man, we actually have this thing inside. And the phrase "man up," in many respects, has been sort of a bit of a negative communication to us. It's like, no, just don't cry. Take those feelings, whatever you're feeling, just bottle them down, just man up, right? And we hear about that. And what we want to do is take that phrase back. And manning up is actually taking responsibility for what's going on. Manning up is actually take and communicate what we are feeling and let those feelings out and be a better man. That's what manning up is being a better man. And you taking dad up and wanting it to be a better dad, I can't think of a better message that could be thrown out there right now, because you think about these stats where if you just look at some of these stats that are going on in our culture and was the father present? And there are so many of them where you can answer that question just by looking at some of the stats. And it's such an important role. And we get thrown in the back seat. Sometimes we throw ourselves in the back seat. I look at my wife with her kids, and it's like, holy cow, yeah, you're the driver of this car. But at the end of the day, many times we take ourselves and diminish ourselves because of that. And you're doing the opposite of that with Dad Up, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's, I have experienced it myself with just friends and stuff that I've been around that are dads that they have this. I guess they struggle with this concept of having to man up and you're right. They don't get to express their emotions. They don't get to, the interesting thing is my wife and I'm not perfect. I am not the perfect dad. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life and I still make mistakes. That's okay. But my wife and I have really taken a responsibility for not only us as parents, but as husband and wife. I mean, we see a marriage coach every single month. That we talk to a marriage coach just so we can make sure that we're just in tune with not only each other, but us as parents.
Yeah.
So it's super important. Our kids deserve it. If you're going to have kids, they deserve to have the parents that will raise them to be, just the best human beings that they can possibly be. So.
Well, and it's that preventative. It's not even preventative medicine. I think when we get to medicine, if you think about the health world, if we get to medicine, we've already gone down a path. But if there are preventative habits that we can get into, like I love the fact you go see a marriage coach once a month, because you don't want it to turn into something else. Like, you know what, you do yoga 3 times a week, you exercise, 3 or 4 times a week, whatever. You're not going to have a lot of these afflictions that it takes where you need medicine for that kind of stuff. It's preventative, right?
Right.
And you doing that is such a powerful example of ways that we can keep that part of our lives healthy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's super important. Like I said, it's super important. So, I've always looked at being a dad as a huge responsibility, but at the same time, I've looked at it as this is the best time of my life, being a dad, being able to just enjoy my time with my kids. Listen, when they're younger, it's great because we're kind of molding them and they're growing, they're developing, they're learning. Yep. But when they're older and then they're gone, then what? Right. Yeah. So it's super, super great. I've loved every minute of it. Like I said, I'm not perfect.
No,
made plenty of mistakes. So
none of us are. But you know what? I forget which episode it was now. They've blurred together a little bit, but somebody said, you were talking about somebody, it was somebody in your life. It might've been your brother-in-law actually, where they were saying to you, the one thing when I think about you is that you're a great dad.
My brother-in-law.
And what a compliment that is.
Yeah.
Like what a massive, massive compliment. I hear what you're saying about the idea, and this has actually come up on our podcast a couple of times, where guys will sometimes, and you alluded to it earlier, where sometimes when we become a father, we immediately, or a husband for that matter, we immediately make a decision or two saying, okay, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm not going to do it that way. And I'm not going to do it that way. And it is a reflexive reaction and decision based on what we grew up with, right, and what we have as a clear as day standard that we don't want to have in our lives. And it sounds like very early on, you made those decisions. Was that before you became a father, or was that as you went along? Like, did you recognize and again, you're not throwing your parents under the bus, but did you recognize some of those lackings where you made that decision to kind of go the other way before you had your first son? Or did it happen, the moment you were holding them? When did that decision get made?
I want to say a little bit of both, Mike, to be honest. I knew that I wanted to be as active as I could when I became a dad, but I have to just to be clear, I didn't know what to expect when, you can never tell non-dads or guys that aren't dads, you can never tell them what it's like to be a dad because they just won't get it. But I think that for me, it was something that I had to, I knew ahead of time, but I didn't really know how important it was until I had the boys, until we had kids. And so it was a little bit of both. I knew ahead of time, but at the same time, I kind of, I learned as I went along. And you're right. We take a lot of the experiences we have as being a parent from not only the job that our parents did, but also, the people around us that are parents and seeing what they're doing. It was a little bit of both.
I feel you. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I love that our podcast journeys are kind of almost in sync. You started a little bit before us. My wife and I were at BC Children's Hospital until May of last year. And it was June of last year that we started heCast. It's been 70 something episodes in that time. And in that time, themes have emerged. We've had eclectic guests like, the guests. And by the way, let me do a little commercial for Dad Up. The guests that Bryan has had on, eclectic beyond belief. We're talking like pro athletes, business and personal coaches, TV personalities, all the way to, on the clinical side, lots of business, big time business success stories, really eclectic group of people. We've had a similar group of eclectic, different people on our podcast. The question I have for you is, have you seen, we certainly have seen a couple of themes that have been recurrent and emerging that, success leaves clues. We hear that all the time. There's been a couple themes that have been reoccurring all the time, no matter who the guest is, in talking about men's mental wellness and whatnot. Has that happened in your experience as well when it comes to fatherhood? Is there success that leaves clues, and are those clues tangible that we can talk about?
Yeah, one of the things that's brought up pretty often is that, you're right in that the line of people that I've had on, from, celebrities to even, big business, entrepreneurs.
Extremely successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, extremely.
Like upper echelon.
Yeah. And it's the thing that I've kind of linked them all together is that as fathers, they have taken the time to schedule time with their family like they schedule anything else in their lives. Yeah. And I've talked about it many a times. I don't think dads or parents really understand how important it is to really have a strict schedule when it comes to your family time. I know dads that are strict about dinner time with the family. Mm-hmm. They do not, it's a non-negotiable. And that the scheduling is so important for parents to really understand. And it's interesting that all these men, they do that. They schedule the time with their family. And it's something that, I have to be honest, I wasn't really good at as a dad. It just wasn't a part of my life. I had schedules for my meetings. I had schedules for my workouts. I had schedules for, doctor's appointments and stuff, but I'd never scheduled time for my family. And so over the last, several years, I've started really doing that. And it's amazing that when you put that as a non-negotiable, that you start to kind of, develop this, I guess, habit of making your family first. And if it's on your schedule, it doesn't get bumped. And so that's one of the links that I've put together with all these guys.
It's interesting listening to you talk about that. It's funny how the family, and fatherhood, but the whole family is the one thing that you can really, if you get tunnel visioned on your professional life, or you get tunnel visioned even on the, the extracurricular things that you do in life, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a friend group, a weekly poker game, whatever that might be, you're present for those things because they are scheduled. But when it's not scheduled, it's kind of one of those things where you're kind of in the zone, and you don't even pop your head up, and because it's out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Right. And when you schedule that stuff, it becomes more, you're automatically more present because you've made it a priority.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's interesting. My wife and I, because she's a school teacher, she's about to be done for the summer, which is great. But my wife and I, we both have very busy lives. She's got, between schooling and all that other stuff, she's got her stuff going on. And then I have between, my job and the podcast and all this stuff. And I coach basketball. So I have that kind of stuff going on. But every weekend we will, like Sunday evenings, we typically do it around Sunday evenings. We'll sit down and go, what do we have going on this week? And then we try, we figure out what days work. And then we try to schedule time, not only to hang out with each other, but also to make sure that we're around for our boys, even though they're grown, but they're both home right now. So we actually talk about that stuff the week before, and we make sure it's aligned. It's super, super important. So,
well, and a lot of personal development, books, or courses or TED Talks, things like that I've seen, it talks about how much traction in your life you can get if the day before the next day, you take 5 minutes and just prepare a little bit of forethought into before you go into sleep. I don't know if it programs your subconscious. I don't know, whatever it does, but But these things that if you're programming yourself as to what I'm going to be doing the next day, what is it going to be that will make tomorrow successful, that kind of thing. You spend a little bit of prep time the night before on that stuff. It really gives you traction in your life. But it's funny how the family doesn't necessarily factor into doing that reflexively for people.
Right.
Isn't that funny?
They think it's automatic. Yeah. They think it's automatic, and it's not. If it's just not there, like you said, you're not going to be popping your head up, because you're going to get in those moments where you're kind of, like you said, in the zone, and you're just not going to pop your head up and go, wait a minute, my family's on the back burner here. I need to pull them back to the front burner so that way we can, it's amazing. And if that's the one thing that we leave here today, put your family on your schedule. Do it, because once you do and you make it a non-negotiable, that's it. So
this is awesome. This is something that I'm really grateful that popped up, and that's the thing that we can focus on today. As for the podcast itself, available everywhere podcasts are. I get mine on my Apple. I'm an Apple guy, so I get mine there. Are you on the Spotify's and all that
everything,
lovely stuff too?
Yeah. Everything. Yeah. You can find it everywhere. You can find it on my website. Yeah. Everywhere.
Awesome. Where do you, and what is your website? Let's do a plug right now. Let's do a plug for that and your socials. We'll do it at the end as well. But if people want to find you, where do they find you?
daduptribe.com. You can find me on Instagram at daduppodcast. I try to, obviously we get the spammers or the trolls on Instagram that send you messages, weird messages and stuff. But other than that, I respond to every single message that I get on Instagram. I think it's important. Obviously, human connection and just networking is super important. So I do respond to messages. And then obviously on dadupptribe.com, you can sign up, and it's all there.
So that's my question. So it's the Dad Up Tribe. We've got this He community that we want to build, and we've got some big aspirations for what we want to do. What do you see for the tribe? If you could kind of be the architect as to where this thing goes, where are some of the directions you would love to see this Dad Up Tribe go? What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, so there's a lot, to be honest. I'm
awesome.
trying to kind of mold it all in, because, like I said, I want to make sure that my regardless of the podcast, regardless of all this direction I'm going with Dad Up, my family still comes first. I still have, I still work a corporate job that's obviously important to me. And then I still coach basketball. I coach high school basketball in the evening time. So that's super important to me as well. But as far as the podcast and the direction of Dad Up, right now I'm trying to get into the habit of developing the book, because I want to have Dad Up is the book. And, so I'm in the process of doing that. The other direction I'm going is, as far as the Dad Up Tribe goes, I want to eventually get into the coaching side of it. So I want to have a group of guys that I meet with that I coach through their dad experiences. And so that's kind of the direction I'm going with that. I also have, to be honest, when we were talking about personal development earlier, I have a personal board of directors.
What? Okay, explain that.
So I've got a group of guys that I meet with every month that coach me.
So it's like a mastermind group, or is it a?
I guess you could call it that, but it was formed as, listen, we talk about, you talk about, companies. We're talking about entrepreneurs that run these big companies earlier.
Yes, sir.
These guys, they all have board of directors that run these companies. And if a company has a board of directors that helps the company really go in the direction it needs to go to be successful, why shouldn't we as people have board of directors that help us become better people?
Yeah.
So for me, I developed this personal board of directors, and I've got 7 guys that are on the board right now. And they range from financial advisors to business owners to, all of them are dads, except for one. Actually, I have one guy that's not a dad on my board of directors, but I got a pastor on my board of directors to help me with my faith. So they're all. And what we talk about every single month is I just kind of tell them the direction I'm at right now, where I'm at in my life. And then they provide little tips and suggestions, and they look at what I want to do the next month, what kind of direction I want to go the next month, how to get a little bit better each day. And they just provide tips and suggestions. And it's really cool. I only meet with them for an hour.
Yeah.
and it's on Zoom because they're all over the place. I have a couple guys that are in Canada. I have a couple guys back east, a couple guys in Texas. I mean, they're all over the place. Like I said, I have a financial advisor that helps me with, making sure that, I'm okay financially, making the right decisions. And I'm very open and transparent with them. And one of the rules that I have is that, like, people would ask, well, why don't you have your wife on your personal board of directors? Well, I don't have my wife on my personal board of directors because she's going to tell me everything that I want to hear. Not everything that I should hear. So I don't have any family. My brother-in-law is on my personal board of directors, but that's because he's a financial advisor. So he's my financial advisor. But other than that, I don't have any family on my personal board of directors because they're going to tell me what I want to hear and not what I need to hear.
Okay, this is fascinating to me, and I have to delve a little deeper and ask you some questions about this. So, is this one of those things where when you guys meet for an hour, is it literally all about Bryan, or are you all iron sharpening iron, where you're all helping each other a little bit? I mean, clearly there's going to be some trickle down where other people on this meeting will get good things regardless. But is this a group of people that are literally, the goal of that board of directors is to help Bryan Ward with his life?
Yep. That's exactly right. So the other thing I did when I developed this board is I actually wrote out contracts. And in these contracts, the contract said, listen, this is what your job is as a board member. And then this as a board member, this is what you're going to get from me. And from me, they're going to get the transparency. They're going to get, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell them exactly where I'm at, how I'm doing, even if it's not good.
Yes.
I'm going to be very open and honest with them and let them know exactly what's going on. And it was a written contract that they all had to sign and agree to. They signed it. I signed it. And so I'm sure that in the meetings, there are things that the rest of the guys are kind of getting tips and suggestions from the rest of the board members. So I'm sure that's happening. Yeah. Sure. That's happening. But for the most part, no, it's all about me.
Wow. What a concept. And what a thing to be grateful for, where you have 7, 8 guys, whatever many it is, who are willing to take time, to be there for you. And I mean, we talk about some of this universal stuff that's out there, why it's so important to be grateful, why it's important to be giving, all that kind of stuff. You get it all back, but you literally have a handful of people who take an hour a month, whatever it is, every 5-6 weeks, whatever it is, when you meet, to focus on you. And what a thing to have in your life. That is a very, very awesome thing that you have.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's, like I said, it was something that I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it from somebody, or I read it somewhere, but it was just something where, all these, companies and stuff that run successfully, they all have board of directors, and Absolutely. That we as people should have board of directors, just like no different than my wife and I having a marriage coach, right? We don't have any marriage problems, but we don't have any marriage problems because we have a marriage coach that helps us keep us in line. So as a person, when it comes to my finances, when it comes to my parenting, when it comes to my relationship with my wife, when it comes to my business, when it comes to the direction of the podcast, I want to have guys that are in place that can help me get my thought process right. Yeah. And what better, why not call them my board of directors, my personal board of directors? So,
it reframes it. It totally reframes it. I've been part of mastermind groups and things like that. But when you say it like that, it makes me stop, and it has a completely different connotation to it. And I think words are powerful. And when you name something like that, a title like that, it gives it a different scope than it would be, Bryan's friend group, Bryan's buddy group, something that's a completely different connotation.
Yeah. It's, there's only one individual that I've actually met in person. And that's my brother-in-law, obviously.
Right.
But all the rest of them, like I said, they're all over the country. I've never met any of them. They've just been good friends of mine through, whether social media or, just talking on the phone. They've all become really good friends of mine over the last couple of years. So I'll be honest, I interviewed each one.
Yeah.
And I went through a handful of guys to decide who would fit for my personal board of directors. So it wasn't something that he's my friend. I'm just going to take him. No, I actually talked to them and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Is this something that you're committed to? Could you be committed to this? If you can, great. If you can't, just be honest with me, and I'll go a different direction. And I had a couple guys. I had a couple guys that couldn't commit to it, and because they couldn't commit to it, I needed commitment.
Yeah.
So because they couldn't commit to it, I didn't have them on the board. So.
Well, it's that thing where, I got a whole bunch of acquaintances in my life, but the friends, those two things are not, many people interchange acquaintances and friends all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, I've got a very serious line of demarcation between what an acquaintance is, which I love acquaintances. Don't get me wrong. I'm not diminishing anybody. I'm just recognizing that when the stuff hits the fan, there's certain ones that are on this line that are considered friends that I can count on, and I love that you have those standards. It just, that is one of the most charming, impressive things. And there's probably another word. The Germans would have a word for how I'm feeling about this, I think. But it's charming. It's impressive. It motivates me. It makes me give me pause for thought. So if there's a word that combines all those things together, that's how that makes me feel. Man, that is a very, very cool thing, Bryan.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask one last question on that, and then maybe we can, like, as you know, as a podcaster, these things are slippery. Time goes by very, very quickly. So we're already moving to the end. I can't wait to talk to you again. I can't wait to see if there are ways that our two brands can kind of commingle, because we're all moving in the same direction. We all want to help people improve. But I do want to ask one more question about this personal board of directors. Off the top of your head, the most single impressive light bulb moment from having this personal board of directors that you have received in this process?
Oh my goodness.
Off the top of your head, first one. I know there's a bunch. There has to be.
Well, I will tell you this. The one thing that just stands out to me, and it's something that's so easy and so simple, but not to overthink a process or something that I want to do, especially when it comes to data podcast. Don't overthink it. Just do it. And that's one of the things that a lot of these guys, because several of them are entrepreneurs, and as much as they struggled in the beginning, they just did it. They took action. And it's one of the things that all these guys have in common. They just took action. And it's something that, we as humans, we get so tied up in the details, right?
Yes.
Of how's everything going to work,
and paralyzed sometimes.
Yes, exactly. So these guys just took action. And yes, did they stumble? Yes. Did they have failures? Yes, of course they did. But the fact that they took action has got them to the level where they're at today. So I think it kind of, when I've heard those things, they've talked about those things a lot. And when I've heard those things, I think about when I started the podcast. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never, ever done a podcast before. I had no clue. I didn't even know where you could get podcasts. So, but I started doing the research, right? I started doing the research and started investigating, and it's kind of learning and then just jumping in. And, I did, my very first episode was just a 10-minute ordeal of me just talking about the podcast and the direction that it's going to go. And then my very second interview was one of my good friends who's actually on my board of directors. He was my second interview, my very first interview, real interview. Yeah. Because I wanted to kind of learn the process. So yeah, it's one of those things where, if you want something out of your life, a certain direction out of your life, whether it's a business or in family or whatever, just do it, take action. And that's one of the things that these guys have all shared with me.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful nugget, because we got guys who are listening to this that are stuck. Like, I guarantee you, the people who have attracted themselves to HeChangedIt so far are the ones who see the vision of what it is that we're doing. And many times they're stuck, or they have been stuck, and they have an overwhelming urge to help people who are stuck get unstuck. And so that message is beautiful. And this is the thing I love about this format. I mean, I'm sure you can say the same. I've fallen in love with it. I know it's my life calling. And I want to move in this direction here. I feel that kinship with you of
absolutely
how this stuff, it's such a cool thing. We didn't discuss any of this stuff for our listeners. We didn't discuss any of this stuff before we turned the cameras on.
No.
And I just love that Thank you so much for saying that. I'm so glad it evolved to where it did. In closing, as we kind of move towards the close here, we talked about the idea of making time for your family, planning time for your family, that kind of thing. For expected dads, for dads who are, maybe at loggerheads with their children. But at the end of the day, for dads who are kind of in that zone and they need to pop their head up and be present, what advice would you have for them based on your anecdotal and also the podcast is research, your research data? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. When we think about our family and our kids in particular, you have to understand that time is precious. And when our kids are younger, we think that, we're enjoying the time with them as toddlers, as babies, as young adolescents. We enjoy that time with them. But when they grow up so fast is my point. And time is precious. And one of the things that I will share, and it's something that I've talked about before, it's something that's super important. And I don't think dads in particular or parents in particular really understand this, but kids spell love Time. So the time that you spend with your kids is how they interpret love. So time with your kids is super important. So I think if you're a brand new dad, I just had a dad, actually the interview that I'm posting tomorrow is a guy that's not even a dad yet. Now I still call him a dad because his wife's pregnant. They're about to have a baby. So he's a dad, but he has never been in that actual role. And I shared with him the same exact thing. Listen, time is precious. And that's how kids spell love, Time. Because the more time that you're with your kids, the better bond that you build, the better relationship you have. And then when they're older, because you spent all that time with them, that bond is so much stronger when they're older. And my bond with my boys right now, I mean, we have our moments, right? We have our moments as father and sons. We have our moments, but they're my best friends. I mean, I love everything that they're doing, and it's because I spent that time with them. That love is there. So,
what a beautiful. By the way, there's a chapter title for one of the chapters in the book. By the way, kids spell love Time. That is we should make t-shirts about that right there. That's a really beautiful soundbite, watering down a much greater concept into a very simple statement. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to finish off, and I decided kind of at the beginning of this, one of my last questions for you, and you stole my thunder, darn it. I was going to ask you, are you at the stage now where you're becoming friends with your boys? And you've already answered it. They're already, you talk about how they're your best friends. I'm in a similar situation with my two stepsons. One's 30, the other one's 23, just turned 24. I can say with full glee and joy that they are two of my best friends on the planet. And yet if I compared them to the other people that would be considered those best friends, these two guys got an advantage because there's much different bonding that is available in those relationships than the other relationships that I have in my life. Mm-hmm. And I would wish that on anybody. I'd wish that on any man, that any man could have that kind of a relationship with their kids where they say they have this best friend, but also it's a different dynamic as well. Isn't it fun watching them start learning these lessons as they become men, as they start adulting, Isn't it fun watching them do that and continuing to give that advice, helping them steer their little canoe as they go down that river of life?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And right now we're in that role where my wife and I are about to be empty nesters. My younger son, who's in college, he plays college basketball. Yep. And because of the pandemic, he didn't get to go to college. So he was all online and they didn't have any of the basketball, obviously. So he didn't get to play basketball.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah. And my older son, who just graduated college last December, he's been at home for the last year because of the pandemic. So what I thought was going to be our first year last year of being empty nesters ended up not being the case, which was fine. But now we're getting to the point where my older son, he is actually in Arizona right now looking at some apartments with some friends because he wants to move out and move back to Arizona where he graduated.
And you're in Cali, right?
Yeah, we're in Southern California. Oof. So he wants to go back there because that's where a lot of his friends are from college. So he's there right now looking at apartments with his buddies. My younger son has just started up basketball at school. And so he's going to be going in the fall back to campus. And so my wife and I are going to be in this empty nester role.
How's your heart, man? How's that make you feel?
Well, the interesting part of it is that I'm excited for that journey, that chapter, being an empty nester.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I'm nervous about what does that mean for, and this is why, back then when I started the podcast, why I kind of started is just, what does that mean about my father journey? Yeah. But the fact that I am good friends with my boys and they call me all the time. I talk to them all the time when they're not home. I mean, it's just, I have a really good relationship with them. My wife and I both do. We have great relationships with our boys. And so I know that even though they're going to be off on their own, the fact that, we have such a good relationship, I know that they're going to call me anytime they want or anything that they need, I'll be there for them. So it's good times coming ahead for me and my wife as far as empty nesters go. But hey, listen, the friendship that I have with my boys, I'm still their dad. I'm still going to give them advice. Yep. And if I think that a direction that they're going is not the best decision, I'll try to guide them the right way. But at the same time, I love hanging out with them.
Yeah. So. I hate that this is over. First and foremost, I'd like to set a commitment, and I'm going to strong arm you that we have more conversations in the future.
Absolutely. This
is awesome. This is impressive. We didn't get to faith. We didn't get to any of the other things that I kind of had in my head as to directions that you and I could go. And we're getting to the end here already. Thank you. I got to say, I'm going to finish the way that I started, Bryan. I'm going to say thank you for contributing to the world in this positive way. We live in a society that needs strong dads and needs the advocacy for strong dads to at least somehow, in some of these boys as they become men, they need to kind of have it in their head that being a father is so important. And there's a lot of absentee fathers that are out there that can make a decision to turn things around and change things. You can always have a new beginning. Just have some action, like what you're talking about. Don't be mired in some of these emotions that are there. Just create action to where you want to go and what you want to do. And your podcast is a beacon of light in that regard. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for contributing back to our world in such a positive way.
Well, thank you very much for saying all that. I appreciate it. I feel like that even though it's what I'm doing with the podcast is to help dads, it's actually helping me. So selfishly, I'm doing it, to help other dads, but at the same time, it's still helping me as a human being. So, but thank you very much for having me on. I love what you guys are doing. I'm excited for our friendship. I'm excited for, kind of developing this, I guess, cross brand with you. I'm excited to meet again and talk about things again. And I'm excited to have you on my podcast as well. I'm looking forward to that. So
time and place, man, just name it. Yeah. I'm there. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely get it set up, but thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this. I really did.
Man, me too. Okay. So before we say goodbye to Bryan, one more time, my friend, throw out there how our listeners and viewers can reach you.
Yeah. Thank you. daduptribe.com is my website. And then you can find me. I'm very active I have all the social media. I have Facebook, Twitter, I have LinkedIn, I have TikTok, I have all those, but really the best place is Instagram, Dad Up Podcast. You can find me there. You can message me. I answer all my messages. So.
Awesome. My man. There we are. They go so quickly. And I'm grateful for that because it's a beautiful flow of conversation. But at the same time, it is an ending to my favorite time of the week when we end these podcasts. But never fear. We have so many amazing podcasts coming up. A couple that have just said that they're going to come on in the future here have got me really, really excited. I love this so much. I love being a part of positive change. That's where He Changed It is at right now. If you haven't downloaded the app, download it. Be part of something from the very beginning, because this thing's going to go big. And I'm so excited about that. I'm excited about everything that we're doing here. And I'm excited about HeCast. So another episode done for HeCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.